If you have £1,000 to spend on a bike, which is a substantial amount of money, I might add, then in my mind, I can't look beyond this, the Giant Contend SL1. We couldn't deny it for this year's Editor's Choice because the aluminium all-rounder is everything to the everyday man for your commutes and your weekend blasts.
So what type of bike is the Giant Contend and whereabouts does it sit in Giant's quite expansive range?
It is big, isn't it? And it can get quite confusing, but the Contend is Giant's sort of entry-level road bike, if you like. It's aluminium, it's made from Alux, A-L-U-X-X, aluminium, which is sort of made and formed in-house by Giant. They do that with their carbon bikes and their aluminium bikes. It is more of an endurance bike, so compared to the TCR, which we also have in Editor's Choice this year, which is their racier bike.
Which you have ridden as well. How exactly does the Contend compare to the TCR?
I guess in a nutshell, it's a little less of a thrill ride. It's a bit safer. You know, I don't want to say there's red tape around things to make it boring or anything like that. It isn't a boring ride, but it just takes the edge off slightly. And the good thing about the Contend is that if you're going 5 miles an hour or if you're going 30 miles an hour, it doesn't change its characteristics too much. You don't feel like you're on the edge and you don't feel like you're going to be in trouble at any point. So, I mean, in general with, you know, larger volume tyres, this has 28C tyres, which are relatively big, and a slightly longer wheelbase and slacker head tube. When you chuck that into a corner and you're trying to push the limit, and I did quite a few times, I was like, right, let's try and find this limit. And it's an odd feeling because sometimes initially you don't kind of feel that grip, you don't know where you are. You don't really get that on this bike, which is nice. And it just hunkers down, tracks through, and there's no emergency, there's no worry, there's endless amounts of grip, it feels. But I was constantly surprised. Every time I was like, right, okay, well, we'll try that again, and we'll try go a bit faster. And it was like, oh, it can handle that, and it handles that well. You can ride it for many hours without sort of worrying about the road bars or the sore back or all this stuff. It kind of relaxes enough without taking away that poised nature of it. And it just kind of gives you a sense of control, and it gives you a sense of everything will be fine, don't worry about it.
It's a reassuring ride.
It is a very reassuring ride, and that's what kind of differentiates it from a racing bike and the likes of the TCR.
But it's not a slow bike, is it?
No, it's not a slow bike. I mean, it is heavy. It's around 9 kilos for a size small, which is heavy. I know £1,000, it's not huge, but you can spend so much more, and you can get so much more lighter bikes. But Giant have spec'd this well. The small iRoad had a compact on it. It had a 50-34 at the front. That was topped with an 11-34 at the back. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So it hides that weight quite well. So you don't feel like you're laboured up climbs and things like that. But anything up to about 30-ish, maybe 28, 25 miles an hour, it feels fine. You don't have to really exert yourself to go that much faster. What starts to sort of bring this bike back to normality, shall we say, and what differentiates it from, again, the TCR, is that when you go beyond that mark where you have to be pushing the boundaries of 30 miles an hour, and there's plenty of roads I know locally to me that you should be whipping along here without much effort, and if you were on a racer bike, it might be the case. It starts to take its toll. You have to be starting, to put out some watts when you go above those speeds. But it's a £1,000 bike. The great thing is if you do push it beyond there, or if you do reach those speeds because you're going down a massive descent, you are reassured that it isn't going to bite you when you need to handle the bike. So yeah, by no means it isn't a couch potato, but it isn't the thrill of a ride you'll get with a racer bike.
So to bring this back to its endurance roots, it's something that Giant have done a lot of work on in their time. What exactly have they done with the Contend to make it as comfortable as possible?
There's a couple of things. Aluminium as a whole is quite a harsh material. I've always said it, no matter what style of aluminium bike you buy, whether that's an endurance bike like this or, something along those lines, there's always one thing that kind of defines a lot of them. They can be lightweight, they could be a little bit heavier, they could be racier. They're all things to all men, which I like about aluminium. But the one characteristic that you can follow throughout the whole lot is that it's a bit harsh. There's a lot of vibration you feel from the road. And there's a number of things that brands do to try and sort of alleviate that. And one of them is a carbon fork. But they also use the D-Fuse seat post here, which is actually very, very good, along with that saddle, which is Giant's own saddle, is very, very comfortable. And it does a lot to transform the bike's sort of feel when it comes to vibration. So a lot of the riding I did with the Contend was around Surrey, around Farnborough home in Hampshire for the CW office. And the roads aren't great. And I always found this bike a joy to ride. I was a bit worried at the start, you know, sub £1,000, aluminium bike, hasn't got a full carbon fork, etc. These little things, you sort of go in your head going, well, it's going to do that, it's going to do that, and you start preempting what this bike's going to do. But it kind of kept surprising me in that sense. It's similar to what I was saying with the handling before. You know, you chuck it into a corner, it's just like, this bike's actually all right. Like, it's doing what I want, which is a surprising thing for, you know, an endurance bike and an aluminium bike, really.
Proved your preconceptions wrong.
It did, yeah. Well, you know, people do say don't judge a book by its cover, and I do that all the time. So, so it's kind of, you know, it surprised me because it started breaking things down, and, you know, the misconceptions I had were starting to fall away very quickly when I was riding this. The best thing about this, and our digital editor Richard Windsor will hate me for saying this, but I stole a Strava KOM from him. And then when I told him I did that on a £1,000 bike, he was just like, well, I can't be having that then. So this bike is capable, you know. It may not be a thriller, but it really is capable.
And it has that very distinctive frame shape that Giant have been pushing, and there's not really any of the bikes quite like it.
No, not really. I mean, I guess you could say now Giant probably, you know, one of the few that still have this compact road design, which they developed and sort of pushed out in the 1990s with Team Once. The good thing about the sort of road design that Giant have is that sizing is a bit better, especially if you're in between sizes. So I've always said that, you know, with Giant's design and the sloping top tube, if you like a 55 centimeter frame size, but the 56 is slightly too big and the 54 is slightly too small, you can struggle with, you know, fitting onto traditional style bikes. With the Giant, it kind of broadens that for you. So from the small, medium, and large sizes, you can find something that suits you. So the medium in particular would suit a big range of riders. So I usually ride a small, but when we took this bike away and we were filming it in Nice, this is a medium, and I could fit on that, you know. So it's kind of, it merges sizes a little bit. Obviously someone 6 foot tall won't fit on the small and probably not a medium, but, you know, it kind of gives you an idea of that compact road design could, if you're struggling to find a bike that fits you, could be something you should look at, really, because it, you know, it kind of helps in that way. So not only does it help in the performance side of things, but it can help in fit as well.
So this is £999.
It is.
Which is incredible value. A Shimano 105 group set, which is great. I guess there are some savings in the wheels, the Giant's owns.
Giant does a good job at this, and I guess that's what happens when you can monopolise the bike, really. I guess the only thing stopping them from owning the whole thing is the drivetrain, and, you know, using Shimano is obviously a very good thing, especially with the 105. They do save a bit of money with the chain set. That isn't a 105 spec chain set, but Giant's own equipment is very, very good. Like, they make their own tyres, they make their own wheels. The saddle in particular is a very, very good saddle, very, very comfortable. But they do their own handlebar tape, and they do their own handlebars and stems, and that will all help to bring the price down. But it isn't at the expense of performance or quality, because they do a very, very good job. And all these things you can buy separately from the bike. If you had another bike and you like Giant things, then, you know, you can buy the wheels independently, which we've tested and loved as well, you know, up through to the carbon ranges. So don't be put off that everything supplied is Giant's own. These tyres are grippy, they're durable, you know, they're good, 28C tyres. Unfortunately, for the aluminium version, they don't supply it tubeless ready. For all carbon bikes, they will supply the bike probably via the dealer.
So they set it up
tubeless, and you're good to go. And they're a big advocate for tubeless system, which we are too.
It's rim brake. Elephant in the room. Is there a disc brake version of this bike?
It is rim brake. They do a Contend SL1 version of the disc variety. 105 has slightly different wheels, but that comes out at over £1,300. So it's a bit of an increase, but for future proofing, it might be worth it. So that's my review of the Giant Contend SL1, and there's plenty of reasons why I chose it to be in this year's Editor's Choice. Above all, it gave me a Strava KOM.
It certainly did. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, then please do like and subscribe to the Cycling Weekly YouTube channel, where you'll not only see lots of other great videos, but you'll also find a whole load more of our Editor's Choice projects as well.
For £1,000, you get a great, solid, reliable bike that won't leave you wanting and will get you some Strava KOMs in them. I made myself laugh.
Oh.